On Saturday, March the 26th, 2022, I posted Anachronism number 3547. It is called The Half-Tragic Ballad of Gerard and Armand. Sometimes a dance is just a dance, and sometimes it's the means to one of those moments of sheer lucidity that might just correct a lousy trajectory. In other words, it can be a history-correcting exercise. And that evening, they were dancing pretty much like the dance they had danced so often before, only this time it was more like the last dance of a pair of dying white posies. Then came the bombardment of beautiful noises that are not often heard upon dance floors or anywhere, but are meant for being heard. It's just that not often are they heard quite so clearly, so appropriately, if at all. And the follow-up is usually even more disappointing if one were to make note of such events, as no one really does. But to be assured, this time it was well heard, and this story, it can with certainty be attested, is a most sure and most true tale. And it was Armand that got most absolutely caught up to veracity and speed with the meaning of the alarm that evening. So that when he and Gerard arrived at their doorstep, walked inside, performed each of their usual back-at-home practices, it was Gerard who broke things up with, "Who was that queen who came on to you with a hard-on 8 times, that I counted anyway, singing, 'I've got a secret'? Then, after each couplet, handing you his crotch as if it were upon a silver platter. Oh, baby, get alive. Him, he's nothing at all like my Gerard, with whom I get to leave and with whom I get to live." To which came the very un-Armand-like response, which also, quite noticeably, sounded not the least bit impromptu. Oh, my sickly, sweet chicken rat. I don't have a worry in the world whether or not any of your consorts have a thing at all like me. He left his befuddled partner in the living room to mull over those words for a minute or two, and then came back with what appeared to be a grocery bag half filled with stuff and tightly and absolutely wrapped with a pair of circles of twine to keep whatever was in the burlap-covered bag all tucked neatly into it, which Armand then let suddenly drop with a thunk upon the tummy of his lover of some 24 years. Gerard, lying flat on his back with his eyes mostly closed, heaved his abdomen in such a way that it tightened and brought him about a third of the way up from his flat position on the couch. "What's this?" he asked, with a look on his face like the absolute highest form of rudeness had just been performed upon him with a gesture. "It's your stuff," said the calm man, standing over the one lying prone, balancing a tightly knotted paper bag on his belly. It rose and fell, rose and fell, rose and fell with his now quickening breath. "You may nap as long as you must, you worthless excuse for a human being, and you'll be out the door by 5. Do you hear me? And you'll never set foot in this house again. Do you understand?" The couch now seemed to swallow the man to whom this was addressed. The body, clearly in a state of devastation and shock, slunk, then sunk a bit deeper, and his eyelids completed closure over both sinking eyeballs. "You are now free to cavort henceforth with whomever you'd like and whenever you'd like, no matter how dissimilar they and their things are with me, because we are no longer an us. As of this moment, we are a fait accompli. We are done. Finito. And by 5. Gerard's mind, incapable of racing, did not have a clue what to do as it sunk deeper and deeper into the crotch of the couch. Had he wanted this day to come? How ridiculous. Now he was lost. After he left at 4:45, he never saw Armand again. And from that day forward, he never quite recovered. dying 15 years later, a used-up, sullen splinter of the man he had been when he'd had his man, as well as his many other men. As for Armand, he roasted a deliciously tender pork shank with some rather exotic legumes, sat down to catch the latest episode of To Catch a Thief, happier than he could remember being in many years. And every day, for the rest of his long and mostly happy life, his days would be filled with adventures of such delight he'd never even imagined such joy to have been possible. He felt complete. He had many friends and the respect of all of his colleagues. And when he passed this world into whatever lies beyond, he did so smiling and holding the fingers of at least 4 hands belonging to 4 separate humans. Of the couple dozen by whom he was surrounded, along with Rex, his miniature schnauzer, and Gale, the gay cat, whose tail upon his nose was the last sensation Armand felt before his passage. The smile remained, it has been told, on his face until the incineration, and his ashes were given, parceled inside olive green envelopes, to each of the guests, except Gale and Rex, who really were not guests at all, to spread wherever and whenever they had the compunction to do so. And that, friends, is the story of the half-tragic, half-sublime lives of the selfish and callous Gerard, and the easily more memorable, loving, generous, and satisfied to the point that he was quite often called, and with absolute sincerity, saintly Armand. I think that's kind of a fantasy, but I like it.